First in the Nation class is teaching Korean American history to high schoolers. I'm Josie Huang, and I discovered that students in the Anaheim Union High School District have gotten way more than they expected. 40-some teens log into their class from their laptops. They're from 7 different schools, so virtually is the only way they can meet. Teacher Jeff Kim beams at them from a square on the screen and kicks off the class with a motto of sorts.
In order for the tree to grow tall,
you have to know your roots.
They're saying you have to know your roots. That's why Kim is teaching them the Korean American stories he wishes he had heard as a kid, like that of LA-born Colonel Young-Ok Kim. He overcame racism in the U.S. military to become one of its most decorated officers of the 20th century.
He really embodied what it means to live in a multiracial America.
Then there was Olympic diver Sammy Lee. He trained in a segregated pool in Pasadena, which he and other swimmers of color could only use on certain days.
But yet he has such a story of resilience. Back-to-back gold medals for the United States of America.
Lessons span more than 100 years, covering key events like the arrival of the first Korean immigrants, the civil unrest of 1992 in LA, and the rise of K-pop. Kim has wanted to teach a class like this for a while. Then the pandemic happened, and there was a surge in anti-Asian attacks.
I started seeing elderly folks getting pushed down and beaten, bones broken, dying sometimes. And then I heard about the Atlanta shootings, and we saw the 6 Asian American women that were murdered. I knew I could not be silent on this topic anymore.
Kim thought about what he could do as an educator.
What about if we create spaces where students can listen to one of their stories? Might that accelerate compassion in our great nation?
Over the next 3 years, Kim developed a curriculum with local scholars of Korean American history with support from the Korean Consulate General in LA. His class quickly drew signups from Korean American students like freshman Celine Park.
Growing up as a Korean American, there had always been this sort of gap between my Korean culture and identity and the American culture that I'd grown up with.
But the class was never meant to be just for Korean Americans. In fact, a quarter of students are not Korean American. Junior Abigail Tafese says she brings her perspective as an Ethiopian American to lessons. Something she says that really stuck with her was how the model minority myth was used to drive a wedge between Asian American and Black communities.
In a Korean American class, you come in and you expect to learn about Korean Americans, which we do learn about that primarily. But, you also get to see how other communities were affected at the same time.
Perhaps the most surprising thing to students was what they discovered about themselves. One of the assignments Jeff Kim gave his students was to write their family histories. Kim says in the case of Korean Americans, immigrants have had to live through the generational trauma of Japanese occupation, the Korean War, and moving to the U.S.
Oftentimes, families are not talking about their story, and they are certainly not seeing their story as a story of resilience because they're so busy just surviving, just making a living.
But the assignment got families talking. Xiong Lee is a freshman in the class.
I found having conversations with my mom and things I didn't know about her before.
Her mom, Heejin, revealed she'd given up a career teaching music at a university to move to the U.S., where she's now a full-time mom.
She never told me that, and I thought that's a pretty important life event.
Her mom's love of music had been fostered by her grandfather, named Lee Sang-gyeon, who's been described as Korea's Tchaikovsky. Heejin fondly shared how her grandfather took her to concerts. I'm reminded of the old days, Heejin says, and the passion for what I did. Xiong says she's not sure when she would have learned all this about her mom. But if her class has taught her anything, it's that some of the most important history is right in front of you. I'm Josie Huang.